US and Canada have been long standing friends and they share a border. Even though there are so many similarities between the two countries, because they're two different countries, they have a ton of differences as well.
We have lived in US for the last 8 years until 2020 and now we have spent more than 6 months living in Canada. So during this time we figured there are a lot of differences between these two countries.
So today we are going to go over top 10 differences between US and Canada across these major categories. So stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to our channel. If you're new here, I am Nikita.
And I'm Manish.
We love to make videos about life in Canada and traveling in general.
So please subscribe to our channel. So now let's quickly go over some of the things we are not going to cover in this particular video. First is similarities between US and Canada, such as tipping culture and driving on the right side of the road. And second thing that we're not going to cover is immigration laws.
We have already made a video about H-1B versus express entry. It's linked in the description below or the card above. In this video, we are going to be very unbiased because we have lived in both these countries and we'll try to make it as entertaining as possible. So stay tuned.
US does not have any national language, but English and Spanish are widely spoken across the country.
Do you speak Spanish?
No hablo español. Canada, on the other hand, has two official languages. One is English and the other is French. And because of that, everywhere you go, there is a branding in English as well as in French, and every government announcement has to be done in both languages.
De nouvelles restrictions de voyage pour ralentir la progression du virus. We're moving fast because that's how we will protect Canadians and the economy.
In Canada, you will find a lot of British influence because Canada is part of Commonwealth of Nations. And that is why you will also find a lot of differences in spoken English as well as written. For example, these words are written as this in Canada, whereas in US you take away the U. This alphabet is said Z in Canada, whereas in US you say it as Z.
Knives, forks, spoons are all called as silverware in the US, but in Canada they are called cutlery.
If you want to use a toilet in US, you would say, may I use the restroom? Whereas in Canada, you'll say, may I use the washroom?
Both US and Canada have dollar as their currency, but they are not the exact same dollar. US dollar is slightly more powerful than Canadian dollar with a currency conversion rate of $1 to 1.25 Canadian dollars.
US has pennies, whereas Canada does not have pennies. So since 2013, Canada has started phasing out pennies from circulation and Royal Canadian Mint has stopped manufacturing more pennies.
But wait, how does it work if my total comes out to $11.12?
So if you are paying with credit card, you can pay normally and your total would be $11.12. But if you are paying with cash, it is usually rounded up or rounded down. So in your case, you'll just have to pay $11.10.
Oh, win-win for me. If you've heard of loonies and toonies, then you're not alone. In Canada, colloquially, $1 coins are called loonies and $2 coins are called toonies.
US has paper money. Canada has monopoly money. It's plastic.
US uses the imperial system for measurement while Canada uses the metric system.
For example, distance is measured in miles in US and kilometers in Canada.
And temperature is measured in Fahrenheit in the US and Celsius in Canada.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, it's nice and 25 this weekend. Do you want to come over?
Sure, I'll pack my jacket.
Jacket? Why a jacket? It's nice and sunny.
Oh, you meant Celsius.
Canadians have been known to be really friendly, and Canada always ranks in the top 10 of the most friendliest nations in the world. Also, Canada has stricter gun controls as compared to the US.
In US, there are usually two major political parties and the US is led by a president.
Canada has 4 political parties and is led by a prime minister.
In US, especially in the southern states, religion plays a prominent role in politics, whereas in Canada, religion is not usually discussed and is kept personal to one's beliefs.
Both US and Canada have pretty much the same number of holidays throughout the year. Of course, they have different holidays depending on which country you're looking at. But both of them have a Thanksgiving holiday. The only major difference there is it's celebrated in October in Canada and November in the US.
So we were impressed with work-life balance in US, but Canada exceeds that expectation. And also, there's 12 weeks of unpaid maternity leave in US, whereas in Canada, it's 15 weeks of paid maternity leave, which is paid at 55% of your salary or $595 per week, whichever is higher. And usually in tech industries, there are additional benefits on top of these government benefits.
When it comes to price of goods, nothing can beat the low prices that you can find in the United States. We have tons of discounts and tons of sales, and combined with low taxation, everything is super cheap on the other side of the border. Whereas in Canada, you have to pay 13% HST on almost every transaction you make. So everything like online shopping, in-store shopping, and even airfares are cheaper in the US, where you can buy like $50 flights to go from one state to the other, which you can't even think of doing so in Canada.
On the left side, I have Amazon.com and on the right side, I have Amazon.ca. I'm comparing exactly same products on both the websites, which is Queen Bed on Amazon.com. It is just over $240, but on Amazon.ca, it's almost $400. If I convert $243 to Canadian dollars, it's just a little bit over $300, but there's a $100 difference on exactly the same product. Now I'm comparing exactly the same TV on Amazon.com and Amazon.ca, and you can see the vast difference in the cost. It does not even compare. So this is going to be a very big category. Let's talk about savings and government benefits. Both in US and Canada, there is some sort of 401k, Roth IRA. In Canada, there's TFSA and RRSP. But specifically, let's talk about RESP, which is government's encouragement towards your child's future in Canada. And in US, we didn't find any similar plans. So once your child is born, you can start investing and government will match your investment. So by the time your child is 18 and about to go to college, you would have at least $80,000 saved for your child's future. So this is a very big government encouragement that is present in Canada, and we couldn't find anything similar in US.
When it comes to credit cards, US gets the better pick, because there are a ton of credit card offers in US versus Canada, and that is because Canada is heavily regulated by the government.
Check out this video where we traveled for free using our US credit card benefits.
And the government regulations in the finance sector is also why you don't see many peer-to-peer payment services here in Canada. If I'm not mistaken, there's one that's controlled by the government called Interac e-Transfer, versus in the US you have many options including Venmo and Cash App.
So now let's talk about employee insurance. In US, there is unemployment insurance, which you can cash in when you are unemployed because of no fault of yours. But in Canada, it's different. So employee insurance is deducted from your paycheck. And when you are unemployed, or maybe you want to take a long-term leave, you are sick, or there's any other reason, you can cash in your employee insurance and you will get paid, I think, approximately $2,000 a month.
Let's talk about capital gains. Capital gains works differently in US and Canada. In the US, you have something called as short-term and long-term capital gains. So if you hold an asset for less than a year, you are charged at your marginal tax rate, which may be your employment tax rate if you're employed there. But if you hold that stock or whatever asset you have for more than a year, you are taxed at roughly 10 to 15%. So US promotes long-term capital investment. In Canada, it doesn't matter if you hold a stock for a year or a day, you're taxed at 50% of your marginal tax rate.
Next major difference is salaries in Canada versus US. For a same job, the salaries in US are higher than the salaries in Canada. Let's talk about dairy and meat industries. So these two industries are really very regulated in Canada. So that is also reflected in cost and quality. The dairy items and meat, they cost higher in Canada and the taste is definitely better than the US counterpart. Another fun difference, in US you get milk in jugs, whereas in Canada you get milk in bags. This is how you get milk in Canada. You just take out the clip, open the bag, and you'll find 3 plastic bags. Put this in a jug like this. Cut the top part and pour milk as normal.
And about produce, most of the produce in Canada is actually imported from countries like US, Mexico, Peru, and the likes, which is why the quality of produce here is actually pretty good. When it comes to home rentals, the difference is apartments and condos. In the US, you'll find a lot more apartments than you can find in Canada. When I say apartments, I mean those units that are out for rent that are controlled by professional property management. Versus here, each of these units that are out on rent are owned by some individual or the other. So you'll find a lot more condos in Canada than you will find in the United States.
So another thing when it comes to rentals is when you get a rental in US, they always come professionally cleaned. But in Canada, they're just in broom swept condition and they're not professionally cleaned. Another major thing is in US, there used to be garbage disposable in sink. But in Canada, it's not the case. So make sure you do not throw any garbage in your sink, else it's going to block it.
Also, another point in terms of rental is in the US, there was this major concept of a security deposit. So you had to pay a security deposit that may or may not be returned to you when you vacate the unit. But in Canada, that's no longer the case. You are not required to submit a security deposit. You're only required to give the first and last months of rent.
Another thing is heating and cooling in US versus Canada. So this is mostly the case in high-rise buildings. So in Canada, heating and cooling is mostly controlled by the building. So in 7 to 8 months of a year, building will be pushing out hot air and the remaining months it will be pushing out cool air.
And that's only the case with very high-rise buildings. And you'll find buildings that are easily 60, 70, 80 floors high right here in downtown Toronto. And the one interesting thing that I found was even if the buildings are that high, you still have a balcony that you can walk out on, which is pretty much unheard of in the US.
So now let's talk about the major difference between these two countries, which is healthcare. And if you have heard about US healthcare stories, unfortunately they all are true. So in US, if you do not have health insurance, the healthcare industry has the power to make you go bankrupt.
On the other hand, you have Canada's universal healthcare system. Now, remember I mentioned universal, not free. And there is a reason for that. The reason it's not free is because you are still paying for it through your taxes, which is why the taxes for most Canadians are on the higher side as compared to US. But the advantage of that is if you were to break an arm and a leg and go to the hospital, you can come out rest assured that you're paying $0 in treatment.
And we have heard so many stories where people had to pay more in parking than their actual treatment.
Yep. And now, universal healthcare does not cover everything though. Like, it does not cover dental and vision, but those are mostly covered 100% by your employer. Now, 100% meaning you don't have to pay any premium out of pocket, but the coverage is, I think, almost 80% or 90% of the treatment.
So in US, if you have health insurance, your employer will be paying higher side of the monthly premium, but you are still entitled to pay the remaining. But in Canada, if you have health insurance, your employer would be paying 100% of it, and you don't have to pay anything from your monthly paychecks.
Yep. And I remember I have a story from way back in 2016 in the US. I had to go for an emergency dental treatment and I could not wait until I got back to India. And I remember getting a bill that was so huge where I thought to myself, I could have just taken a flight home to India, gotten my treatment, rested for a week or so and come back, all for less than half of what would have costed me to get that treatment done.
And in the last 8 years, we have not used US healthcare as much as we had used Canadian healthcare in the last 6 months. So that says a lot about the healthcare industry in both these countries. There are a lot of differences that didn't make the cut in this video. Let us know if you want part 2.
And comment down below with what you thought was the best difference between US and Canada, and if you like this style of video making. And as always, if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and keep watching our channel.
Bye.
Bye.